Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening, man. Um, I hope all is well, man. I hope everything is going great, man. I just wanted to say, man, it's great to be back. Another episode, another week, and I look forward to having the conversation tonight, man. All is well. We on a little bit later tonight, got to get my football in, so watch my team, and they just didn't do what they supposed to do. But hey, shout out to that. But that's what I love about college football. But with all of that, man, I'm just excited to be on tonight and looking forward to having the dialogue and the conversation for tonight. But again, man, it's a great day. Fall is coming in. Fall is here, and just I'm enjoying this change of weather, and that's what I'm doing. So sharing this with a few people. Hopefully you share it. Won't be on before you guys long, but I just wanted to get on here and to stay on. We're on episode 198. 198 episodes been going strong. So that's something that I take pride in, and I'm excited about, just for the opportunities of being here, being back on. Just keep going strong. Shout out to my son Robert. He definitely inspired me on the topic tonight, and I just wanted to tell him I love him, and wanted to get on here and do what we do, man. But again, man, make sure you guys let me know where you're tuning in from, where you're watching from, because it definitely means a lot. Means a lot to me. But all in all, man, I hope all is well, and we're gonna get right on to it. Tonight, tonight is a topic that I think that is very something that we all can dissect and all can look at from different angles. And I wanted to talk about something. And my son, when I talked to him about it, he suggested it, and I was like, you know what, that's good. And I wanted to jump on here, and one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I felt that it's very necessary. And one of the things, let me know where you guys are tuning in from, where you're watching from, or whatever. And this is interactive, so feel free to interact. But one thing I did want to talk about, and for the night show, and I wanted to talk about the topic of knowing and understanding your role you play with others and in people's lives, and the role you play with others and in people's lives. A lot of times what happens is we make assumptions of roles that we play in other people's lives. And many times those assumptions can be right, but many times those assumptions are wrong. And I think a lot of times what happens is we operate off of wrong assumptions. And operating off of wrong assumptions, we will find ourselves going down a path where we are frustrated, or where we become frustrated because we make assumptions that we are fulfilling certain roles to people, and we realize that we aren't. And by realizing that we aren't, a lot of times it can cause a lot of friction. But the reality is we have to know and understand the role that we play. What is the actual role? Not me going off the assumed role, but have you really just sat down and found out what is the role that you play in that person's life? What is that role? Is that role defined? And I think that that's something that we all can come to, because I think that's something that many times we people find themselves frustrated at. Because the reason why people find themselves frustrated at, because there's a lot of people who assume certain roles in people's lives. They get into certain things and get into situations and circumstances, and then they will assume that this is what it is. But the reality is, many of us, we define things differently. We got different backgrounds. We come from different backgrounds. We come from different norms. And when you connect with people, especially like in an intimate relationship, you can assume that, hey, this is the role that I play. Or you can go in with the mindset of, this is the role. This is the defined role. But is that role truly defined for everybody? And I think that's one that a lot of people struggle with, because the role is not truly defined. And you have to sit down and define that role. And you have to know and understand what role you play in others' lives. Because many times we overvalue the role that we play, and we find ourselves frustrated and disappointed because we are the ones that are overvaluing the role, because we never sat down, took time to understand or gain an understanding of who we are to that person. And many times it's on us. It's on us. And one thing about it, and one thing about it, when you talk about knowing and understanding your role, right? It is critical. It is critical, but it is so important to sit down and define what your role is with somebody. And I think sometimes, those roles can be understood, equally understood. There can be a shared understanding. But if there's not a shared understanding, it's best for you to just go to and ask the question, hey, what role am I fulfilling for you? Who am I to you? What role am I, like, what are your expectations of me in this? And a lot of times I think if you sit down and have those conversations, I think what you will see that it will be clearly defined. And it would be defined to the point to where that person will let you know, and you'll see if you are what your vision is of what role you play, see if it's aligned with the other person. Because despite how much effort you put into fulfilling the role, if it doesn't line up with what the other person expect or seek, is it really you fulfilling that role? And I think a lot of times the friction comes when there's a disconnect with the lack of understanding and really knowing what that other person expects. I think that's the friction point. And many times those friction points can lead to a lot of destruction in the aspect of relationships. It can erode relationships. It definitely can erode relationships, especially if you aren't willing to sit down and if you aren't willing to gain an understanding of what role you play. A lot of people, the sad truth is, a lot of people just assume that they fulfill certain roles in other people's lives, and they just operate off of their point of view. They operate off of from their perspective. So I'm assuming that I'm fulfilling the role in this relationship. I'm assuming that I'm fulfilling the role in at the job. I'm assuming that I'm fulfilling the role. And one thing that I like about the military is we have duties and descriptions, right? Duties, responsibilities, and description. They'll tell you in this role, this is what duties you will do, and this is what is expected of you. And what I like to do, what we call is a term of reference, and the term of reference clearly outline these are some of the things, are the levels of expectation. And I'm not saying you have to sit down and do that for everything, but some things, some roles that you think that you're filling, you need to sit down and have a conversation. Hey, what are your expectations for me fulfilling this role? Or what do you see this role as? Because what you will find is different people define the same role differently. So your approach may not be meeting what the other person expects. Your approach may not be meeting what the other person expects. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It's just we come from different backgrounds. And I think that's what a lot of frustration at. And there's a saying where it is hard to love somebody who grew up in survival versus somebody who grew up in a loving environment. And this is where I'm talking about expectations, because of those environments, you can have two different viewpoints of what a role is supposed to be. And now you come into a relationship and you guys are coming together, and one is trying to fulfill a role that they saw from the perspective of survival, and the other one is trying to fulfill a role what they saw from the perspective of love, and you will have conflict. You will have conflict. The reason why you have conflict is because those two aren't the same. Even though we're talking about the same thing, because they come from different environments, they view it differently. And you will have conflict with that. That's why it's so important to gain an understanding of knowing and understanding the role that you play. What is the expectation of the role that you play? Some people have different expectations based off of their experiences. And is that fair to you? And you have to answer that by sitting down and clearly defining the role. You have to clearly define the role. And I think a lot of times we don't like doing that. We don't like doing that because we just operate off of assuming, the assumption. We like operating off of assuming and the assumption. And I think that is not good. I'm being honest with you. I don't think that is good. Especially when we start talking about the role that you play. One thing I realize is we all, and it's good, it's the truth, but we all grow up, and the way that we grow up, we approach life from that perspective because that's what we're familiar with. And a lot of us, we just operate off of something that's familiar with us, not even knowing that even if it's good for us or if it's good for the relationship that we're in. And we operate off of that, and then we go into the point about understanding what role we play in people's lives, and we connect ourselves and we operate off of assumptions based off of what's familiar with us. And by operating off of assumption and what's familiar with us, what ends up happening is we end up causing a lot of conflict, and we be disappointed because we are expecting certain things that's not communicated. But the reason why it's not communicated because we got two different backgrounds. That's why it's so critical to sit down and come to a shared understanding on what is the defined roles or defined expectation or the role that I'm supposed to play in your life or in somebody else's life. That is so critical to do. We got some comments. Hey, Anthony Carey tuning in from Birmingham. Thank you, sir. Miss Susie Patrick, how you doing? She said, that's right. Thank you. Samuel Hedgeman, what's going on, my brother, tuning in from Brooklyn, New York. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. But it is so imperative that we as people learn to clearly define the roles. And I think a lot of times what ends up happening is many times we just assume and we get into situations and then we go and we get on autopilot, but then we silently become frustrated because the roles or our expectations aren't met. But the reality is we came into that situation, that relationship or whatever, under assumptions. And under those assumptions, we just assume and we just started going off of it, just operating on autopilot, but we never sat down and got a clear, laid down clear expectations. Hey, I'm in this relationship. Hey, what do I expect from you? Is it just we're going to be this or we're going to be that? And many people don't like doing that because they're afraid. They think that that's confrontational and they look at confrontation as conflict, but confrontation is not conflict. A lot of times in order to gain an understanding, you have to confront that, sit down and have a sensible, logical conversation so that you can gain an understanding, so that you can walk in harmony. So now if you know what role you have to play, it makes it so much better and it eliminates you wasting time, energy, and effort assuming. I'm telling you, this is one thing that I know a lot of people don't like to talk about, but it's the God honest truth. And I tell you, with the God honest truth, one thing that you can look at and one thing that I've learned so far is when you have clearly defined roles, it really sets up, it eliminates you wasting a lot of time, energy, assuming what somebody else doing. And I can remember working so many times in the military, you have a counterpart. And I had a counterpart, my first sergeant. My first sergeant had clearly defined roles. And there was a shared understanding of what his role was. And it was funny, not funny, but it became so efficient. We was able to be so much more effective and efficient as a team because we had a shared understanding of what roles. Anything that came under that fell up under his role, boom, he got it, he ran with it. When it came up to me, boom, I got it, I ran with it. We did not sit down and have to figure out, hey, who it go to, because we already set those boundaries and we set those expectations up. And we knew which one fell into each one role. And we was able to fulfill that role and give each other space because we sat down and we got an understanding. But many people don't have an understanding and they wonder why you have chaos when trying to define roles. Being honest with you, most people, and the problem that most people have, and people know not too many people want to talk about it, but the problem that many people have with roles and fulfilling roles and defining roles is because they want to operate in their emotions about what they feel like. And a lot of people operate off of what they feel like. And they feel like, oh, I feel like that if I don't do it, no, it won't be done right. Who said that? That's on you. And then you'll be the same person complaining that you're tired, or your partner, whoever in that relationship, whatever relationship it is, or on the job or whatever, you say your partner is lazy or they ain't doing that, but you don't never let them because you feel like it won't be done right until you do it. You see what I'm saying? You're not defining the roles. You just want things your way, and then you wearing yourself out. And then now you don't even understand why people don't want to keep being in a relationship with you. You always blame the other people, but you never look at the fact that you didn't define clear roles. And then why you got to be in control in the first place? That's a control issue. And that shows you have a lack of insecurity. And you need to work on that before trying to connect with somebody else and try to always paint them as a problem. Oh, yeah, you said it keeps you. Hey, Yolanda, how you doing? You said it keeps you from overextending yourself and your partner doesn't require all of that. Facts. It does. I'm being honest. It does. Listen, man, it's so many people, and it's sad, but it's true. But so many people waste so much time assuming things instead of clearly defining what their roles are, and especially in relationships. Find out what their roles are. A lot of the things you assume and you're going off of assumptions, if you just ask your significant other, they'll tell you, hey, boom, this is what I need from you. But you're assuming that this all that, and your assumptions are connected off of to your experience, not off of what they want or what they need from you. So that's why I said, if you just sit down and have a clear and easy conversation, what you'll find out is It's not that hard in the first place. We just make it hard because we want to make it about us. That's what we do. Hey, I don't need a mama. I need a spouse. I need a significant other. I don't need a daddy. I don't need nobody to tell me this. I don't need that. This is what I need from you. This is the role that I need you to play. And either you're going to be willing to do it or you ain't. But it's up to you, and you have to make that choice. It's not rocket science. You know, it's real simple. It's not a lot. And I think a lot of times we run people away. We have to know and understand our role. And then one thing about it is, too, this is the other thing I think we need to think about, but stop overplaying the role that you have in people's life. Many of us, we overplay the role that we have in people's life because we feel like that if I do this, we try to make ourselves more important in somebody else's life by overplaying the role that we have. And I'm not saying your role is insignificant, but your role may not be as big as you want it to be. Some people, they just need you to be there for them. They don't need you to become the center of their world, or they don't even want to become the center of your world. And many of us, we do that to try to make ourselves feel good, but that ain't meeting the needs of what they need from you. So we got to stop trying to overplay the role that we play. And sometimes we get upset because we try to make ourselves more important in other people's lives than what we aren't. And when we find out that we aren't as important, look, take it for what it is and move on. Don't sit there and have a pity party. Just stop overplaying your role or the role that you play in other people's lives. That's all you got to do is stop. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. You just have to stop. Stop overplaying your role. And because you're right. Hey, cuz, what's going on? How you doing? Love you, man. Love you. But yeah, stop overplaying your role. Like many times we do that. We do that in relationships, especially this, man. Like, look, I got to say this, and I know this is true, but many of us, we overplay our role in intimate relationships because of our own insecurities. We overplay our role as a way of validating ourselves. And that's a dangerous space to be in, because when we do that, then we put too much unnecessary pressure on the other person. And we overplay our role because we want to feel like we are all of this to that person. But do that person need that? That person just needs you to be you. And whatever insecurities and issues that you have going on based off of your past experience, it has nothing to do with them. That's why it's so important that you take the time to heal and deal with the reality of you. And then you can understand what role you play in their life or what role they need you to play. And then you can go by and you can do it. Go by and do that. And then that will make you relevant into that relationship. And that will elevate you in your space by you fulfilling and being what they need, not by you trying to be what you think you should be in a relationship. It's so key. It's so key and it's so critical. And, I just wanted to jump on tonight and just talk about that and expound on that for a little bit, man. I thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys, man. Go check me out on my social media platforms. The Conversation 98 on YouTube, The Conversation 98 on Instagram, The Conversation 98 here on TikTok, and The Conversation _98 on The Conversation _98 on TikTok, and The Conversation 98 here on Facebook. Man, I thank you guys so much for rocking with me. We're coming up on episode 200. Been going 200 episodes since God told me to start back 4 years ago, and we're still going strong till he tell me to stop. I hope you guys have a great and wonderful week and love on your people. You guys be blessed. God bless.